Hello everyone, my name's Lee. I am Amy's partner and one of Amy and Emma's support crews for DW this year. We're down here on Exeter Canal Sunday the 25th of January. We're down by Turf Lock at the moment, so we've got a couple of boats out today. But Amy and Emma, they've paddled probably about halfway down to Topsham Lock and then crossed over onto the river. They've gone upstream a couple of miles and then come back down to Turf Lock, which is where we are at the moment. So we'll be turning around in a moment to see them as they set off. That's Amy and Emma heading back up now to Exeter Canoe Club, and I'm going to set off back for the 5 mile run with them.
Hi, Amy and Emma in Exeter on Sunday the 25th of January.
So today was an opportunity to do a section of the canal and spice things up a bit and actually get onto the River Exe, which makes a change for us. And even better news, we had some company.
We did, we had some friends. So we had a debate on the water about whether or not we like having friends when we're paddling. We've decided we do like having friends. So yay for friends. We think it's really, really important to all stick to our own game plans. So we regrouped every now and again and did our own thing, but had company when we wanted it on the water.
Yeah, so I think probably one of my reservations about having especially faster boats with us was that we were going to push the pace and maybe burn out and not have enough on the way back. So as Emma said, it was just a quick check at the start. Everyone had some regroup locations, and then it was enjoyable because we had some great conversations, but did our own kind of speed and training. Bit lumpy down the bottom.
Yeah, so the Exe is currently in flood, so we portaged over onto the Exe and then paddled upstream a bit until we started to meet the flow, and then came back down into the estuary. So at the bottom by the lock, we did have to go side onto the waves, so it was a little bit lumpy, but we paddled really well and we had really good practicing of our stability, so that was a nice confidence booster.
Yeah, really good for us after a bit of a sketchy paddle in similar conditions in the dark. So it was, as Emma said, a really good confidence boost. And as you can see, boats loaded on the car, and we're going to get on with the rest of our Sunday. See you next time.
So, afternoon everybody. It's Saturday the 31st of January, so last day of January. And I'm just back from a paddle with Chon on the Tiverton Canal. So I thought I'd just give you a quick update on what we did. We covered just over 12 miles in about 2.5 hours. It wasn't without its mishaps. So my watch we'd fixed we were going to do some interval stuff, so we fixed my watch to the boat, and it just as we paddled off, it fell off into the water. Fortunately, it was attached to something that floats, so we had to do a bit of a 360, and that was quite entertaining, but we managed to get the boat round in the canal. It's a wide bit of the canal where we put in at Tiverton, so we were able to do a 360 turn with lots of people watching, and without falling in, and recover the watch and then crack on. So that was the first mishap. We then encountered a very angry swan. Now, most of the swans actually on Tiverton Canal are quite friendly, or they're not bothered by us. They're the younger ones, but there's 2 swans that we've spotted before, and they just don't like us. You can see all the signals as you're coming. They get quite hostile. So we took it very carefully going past them, but they came quite rapidly towards us as we came past, and there was a right thud on the boat, and I genuinely thought, that they were going to try and get on the boat and cause us some mishap. Fortunately, we got past and away, but we decided, because we had to come back that way, that we would portage around the swans. It was a bit of a snag trying to find somewhere on that canal to get out. It's not as easy as it sounds. just the way the banks are on that canal. So we managed to find somewhere, we got out and managed to sort of get around the swans, but it did sort of delay us a bit. So that was today. On the way back, we did the last 40 minutes on the way back into the car park where we park at Tiverton. We did some intervals. Paul, who's been coaching us, is sort of quite keen that we try and build boat speed. So we did a number of intervals on the way back in, just raising the heart rate. So I think we're steady paddle pace for most of the way, and then that last 40 minutes, we were up. I was certainly up in for my age, quite in quite a high zone 5. So we hopefully that's done us some good. So all in all, a pretty good session today, and it sort of makes up for the fact that John and I can't paddle much together, so we try and get as much as we can done together when we do paddle.
It's Wednesday the 27th of January. I've just been for a paddle with Brendan on the Foy. It was really good. We paddled up until the floodwater met the tide, so it was a little bit bouncy in places, and then we've come back to the gorgeous estuary. On Sunday we did a little blog about whether or not we like paddling with people, and I thought I'd add that on the estuary it's a non-negotiable. So I always make sure when I'm paddling on an estuary that I've got a buoyancy aid, especially in the winter, and that we've got friends. So the Foy can change the conditions really, really quickly. So we had a little surf up at St Winnow, and then we've come back down to Gillamp and it's flat. So paddling in at least 2 people is always always important for me in the winter. And having my phone so that if something was to go wrong, people can track us and they know where we are.
We're here at the Wiltshire and Berkshire Canal today. This is a bit of a novelty for me. This is my local canal. Fortunately, although it's about a mile of canal, there is currently some bank works being done by the local canal trust, which means that there's a section which is too shallow to paddle, and there's also some landowner disputes on the other end of the canal, which means there's a section that's been blocked off, and at the other end of the canal it's still being excavated. So what was a mile of canal is now about half a mile of canal. Anyway, I'm here in my K1. Ta-da! I'm on my own. Adele is out at the moment. She has unfortunately got pneumonia. She's been pretty poorly, so had to try and come out in my K1, and then unfortunately I left my V-bars in Worcester. So I have a boat but no transport. Hence I'm here on this tiny piece of canal. But I did some intervals today, some good strong intervals. Just about get a 4-minute session in, so I've been doing lots of up and downs. Don't need to really practice turning for DW, but a few turns in there. So anyway, a bit strange being out in the K1 without Adele. Hopefully she's going to feel better soon, and we'll be back on the water together in a few weeks. So let's see how it goes.
It's Emma and Amy here, and we thought you'd introduce you to our boat. So over the last few months we've been adapting our boat slightly. So we have got our padding on our shoulders to keep our shoulders comfy and to avoid damage to the boat. We've also padded the handles a little bit, but we need to play with the handles and also how to work out how to attach our torches. We've got a map that neither of us can read, so we're going to have to adapt the map and make it a little bit bigger because our portage diagrams we cannot see in the boat.
And also someone mentioned that it's worth coming up with a colour coding system, so I'm going to have text that says get out left maybe in red, and then right maybe is going to be blue, and then if it's down the middle green. But that's something that we're going to play with and see what works for us.
Amy's got a nice new spray deck.
I know, really excited to take my Icon deck out this morning, and it was roasty toasty, so that was fab, and waterproof.
And we've got the pump that Steve fitted a couple of weeks ago. So the pump is working. It's a new foot paddling procedure for me. But I'm getting used to it, and we no longer have water in the boat.
And as you can probably see, we've got a rooster cag and a second rooster cag stowed in the boat, because for the first time this training season we actually had to delayer. So winning on all fronts.
I also thought what I'd do is I'd just mention something about last week's paddle, which we took some footage after our qualification paddle from Pewsey to Aldermaston. And I talked about qualification paddle. We'd finished. It was a long day. We had a long journey home. So I sort of rapidly commented on the fact that it was a qualification paddle. But I thought it was probably worth just explaining what that means. I'm just referring to the DW handbook, which is really, if you're doing the DW, I'm sure you know all about the DW handbook because it's got lots of useful stuff in there. And really helps out. So for us, if you're to qualify for the DW, you've got to have completed the DW in the last 3 races, or you're currently ranked in marathon divisions 1 to 5, or you're currently ranked in marathon divisions 6 to 9 and have completed a marathon race greater than 20 miles. John and I, as you know from our journey, are pretty new to paddling and have not done any of that and are not in those esteemed classes. So it does give you a bit of a get out. It says competitors unable to meet the above criteria will be required to provide endorsement by a qualified club coach that they are competent to compete the race, or GPS proof that the crew have paddled continuously in excess of 30 miles on similar water to DW, so canal and open moving water, within 8.5 hours. So that's what we did last week from Pewsey down to Aldermaston. It's actually on the route, so hopefully fulfills that requirement. And we went down there in just, I think we were 6:49. Bit slow. The conditions were pretty tough last week with a headwind and so an easterly flow, and it was quite gusty, and it nearly had us out of the boat a couple of times. But we got down there, and we were really pleased to have got it done and got that tick, because the other opportunity for us was probably going to be Waterside D, which is 2 weeks before the race, and we just felt uncomfortable leaving it that late in case we got injured or something else. I thought before I finish, I'd just give you an update on my training progress as of January, and the training that I've completed this month. And I was indirectly told by Paul, who, as I said, is coaching us, that we should aim for 200 miles in January to build a good base of aerobic fitness. But he did say, and he did caveat that he appreciates you can't do all of that on water. And as John and I live 100 miles apart, we only get to paddle once a week together, and it's difficult to go more than that. I work as well, so I try and get in the K1 and do extra miles where I can. This week, or the last couple of weeks, have been pretty difficult actually with work, but also the weather's not helped. Locally where we paddle, the conditions have been difficult, so that's not helped a great deal. So I've done a bit of a conversion, and 200 miles we think equates to about 40 hours of sort of training. And the training that I've done obviously on the water, we've talked about that. Races to places, which is this sort of interval training where you go out with a group of people, and if you're a slow paddler like me, you're set off first, and then the other paddlers are released depending on their ability, and they race to catch up that first paddler, which is often me. And it's about 400 meter stretches or sprints that we're doing. And then at the end, because you're set up in that sort of handicap system, everybody ends up in finishing at about the same time. You recover, and then you go again. And, you know, they're quite good fun, although very hard work. I've obviously done a number of steady paddles. We've done the long paddle, a couple of long paddles, including the qualification run. But then I've augmented the on the water time with off the water stuff, such as rowing in my Concept 2 rower, indoor cycling on, I've got a bike erg, which is really good. I cycled to work a couple of times, probably should have done more, but again, the weather's not helped with that. Done a bit of strength training and some recovery stuff, which is just as important as doing all the other stuff, I think. And my recovery stuff I've counted as walking the dog. We go out for about an hour, and I keep the pace up, so I've sort of included that. So what does that amount to? So we've done 17 hours of paddling. I sort of wince a little bit because that doesn't feel like it's enough at this stage. That equates to about 81 miles. Forgive me if the maths doesn't work quite right. I've done 15 and a half hours on the Concept 2 rower and bike erg, and covered 311 kilometres on those machines. I've done 3 hours in total cycling to work. I've done 3 hours of strength and stretching and 7 hours of walking the dog. So I've sort of counted that as about 38 hours of proper phys, plus about 7 hours of walking the dog, which I think takes me over the 40 hours that Paul tasked me to do in January. So I think I'm on track, well, at least for getting fitter. But hopefully that's going to stand me in good stead as we go forward into February, and I'll need to ask him what I need to do in February, and go for that, which I'll do.
So it's the 4th of February, midweek. It's been a busy week at work, so I'm here at the gym early. It's about 6:30, so I need a quick session and then off to work. But it's been a bit of a funny week. I guess I'm still waiting for Adele to finish her antibiotics, see if she's going to be better to start paddling in a couple of weeks. So I'm just trying to keep up the training a little bit, hence the gym. I've missed my run this week as well because I've been working quite long days and away at one of our sites. So a tiring week altogether, but otherwise I'm starting to feel fairly good. Like, my fitness is definitely coming on. I feel a bit stronger when I've been playing hockey and running, so there's some good signs out there, but just need to get some time back on the water. So again, trying to get hold of my V-bars this weekend so I can go for a paddle in my K1 while Adele rests up, and then we'll see what next week brings. So that's it for now. Let's go do some weights.